She's the woman who served in the cabinet in 2 positions in 2 different administrations. First as Secretary of Housing and Urban Development under Gerald Ford, and then as United States Trade Representative under President George Herbert Walker Bush. Earlier today, we got to talk with Carla Hills, a true trade expert, about her thoughts on the action taken against China. And I asked Ambassador Hills about her experience with tariffs.
My experience doesn't include slapping tariffs on countries. I think we should sit down and try to negotiate a solution to problems that do exist with our trade with China. And it would have been wonderful if we had started by joining hands with our closest allies who suffer from the same problems. But here we are, and I hope that they can get to the bargaining table rapidly, because these tariffs are going to hurt our workers, our producers, as well as China's.
So your experience when you were in the position of trade representative did not include, as you say, slapping tariffs on. Have you seen it happen? Have you ever seen it work, where somebody started out the negotiation with tariffs to get somebody to come to the negotiating table?
I think the threat of tariffs sometimes works, and sometimes you have to do that. But I think that we didn't have a real good strategy when we started with China. And as I said, joining hands with our closest allies and confronting China about discriminating against our investors, not giving us national treatment with respect to their companies. These are things they just simply have to change. And by the way, if they moved in the direction of creating these reforms, China would benefit too. So it would be a win-win. 1 and 1 in that case would make 3.
You know the U.S.-China trade relations very well. And, of course, they've evolved quite a bit over the course. For example, just when they came into the WTO, China has grown at a faster rate than the United States has. If you were setting out the agenda, what is the #1 thing you would want to address? Because we've heard from the president different things like trade deficit versus intellectual property, 2 somewhat different issues.
Well, the trade deficit doesn't fix the problems that we have with China. Our complaints with China are that they have percentage caps on the amount we can invest, that they require intellectual property transfers, things that really hurt our companies. But because they have 1.3 billion people, we need to tap into those markets. You know, with 5% of the world's population producing about 15% of the output, we need customers beyond our borders. So working with China, and we would have more impact, more force, if we worked with our allies to get China to do what they said they would do when they joined the World Trade Organization in 2001. And as I said, I believe that if they were to do those things, they would be better off. So it's something that we ought to be working on.
So are you somewhat sympathetic, at least with the motivation of the president, in the sense that there are things that the Chinese do, whether it's subsidies, whether it's state-owned enterprises, whether it's caps on investment, as you said, that really do curtail free trade, as they say they want to have, China? So is he right, at least in saying there's a real issue here, even if you may take issue with how he's going at it?
Absolutely. China is not living up to its commitments in the World Trade Organization. And they've benefited from being a member of the World Trade Organization, as we all have, by having stability for a period of time and having the markets improve, have helped us all. But we need to have a strategy and then tactics that work. And we need to get to the bargaining table. And wouldn't it be nice if we had 7 of our closest allies at the bargaining table on our side of the table as we sat down to negotiate with China, saying, look, these things must change. Tell us your plan. Give us the time frame and get it done. And we've had negotiations with China before, and we've come out with positive outcomes. But now we really have to have a change.
Which leads us really to another issue, related issue, but another issue with President Trump. He has come out and said that the WTO has, as he put it, treated us very badly, He's not prepared yet to pull out, although he seems to be holding out that possible threat. Is he right about the need for reform for WTO? What should and could be done with the WTO to modernize it?
What should be done is to upgrade it. We came to a deal on the WTO in 1994. It's 25 years old. We didn't have rules governing digital trade and many services that are offered today, and lots of other things that we need to do to have rules that govern the 164 members so they adhere to the rules. Our investors know what the rules are. Our buyers get the best deal they could get, and our workers have the opportunities to supply. So these are things, I mean, the WTO is invaluable. And we're part of the problem when the president complains, because we put a hold on appointing the appellate panel. And I think rapid resolution of differences among trading partners is of great value.
Does the requirement of unanimity among all of those countries actually limit the effectiveness of the WTO? Does it essentially have very few or no teeth because you have to get everyone to agree?
You have to get everyone to agree up to a point. We have rules that say if such a percentage agree, then these rules will apply to this group. So there are different ways of going about it. And, you know, really, when we had the North American Free Trade Agreement, we finished that, and it got through our Congress in '94. It was the first trade agreement that protected intellectual property, protected international investors, had a dispute settlement, and eliminated all industrial tariffs and opened up agriculture. What did the WTO do? It was created. We were working on the GATT, and it was created, and they borrowed all those rules to apply internationally. If we had stayed into the Trans-Pacific Partnership, we had new rules, and they could have been picked off and copied to fit for the WTO 164 members. I'm sorry that we didn't do that.
You mentioned the North American Free Trade Agreement. That is very much in play as well under this administration. We talked recently with Carlos Gutierrez, somebody you know well, former Commerce Secretary, who said that he thought actually we were closer to getting a new deal on NAFTA than people understood. Do you have a sense of where we are in that process right now?
I think that we've come a long way. We've got rules, some of which are quite similar to what we agreed to in the Trans-Pacific Partnership before we pulled out, and it would be a blessing for the United States, for its producers, for its workers, for its consumers. And I hope that we can get NAFTA through. It's uncertainty is not a good thing. It causes investors to stay their hand, not make investments. And sometimes if they don't make investments, then workers don't get the new opportunities. So, let's move ahead on these trade issues, because we are a globalized economy. People may not like the word globalization or international trade, but we are connected at the hip today because of automation. You know, you can talk to anyone, any place in the world, and produce things, share ideas. So we've got to modernize.